Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. It has been quite a long time since I released a video, and I must just say, as full disclosure, this year is going to be the busiest year I have faced academically so far. It is going to be very busy, and I'm probably going to be unable to record. So you might be thinking, oh, well, what am I doing here then? Well, I've been thinking about a solution to this issue. I've been trying to think, is there a way that we can actually produce more videos than we were doing before of the same or better quality? So the solution I've proposed is bring it to you, the people. What I want to do is I want to introduce this idea of you can be a consumer of Mack makes audiobooks. You can listen to the audiobooks which are created by the channel, and this is something which most people would be quite excited about, you can record for Mack makes audiobooks. If you have the voice which is just meant for storytelling, or you think you have the voice, well, we're going to go through an audition process. But before we do that, you might be thinking there's a few questions you want answered. The obvious one, how much am I getting paid? So I've written out a pretty extensive, I'm hoping not too technical, I just wanted to cover all my bases, and I'm just going to read you through the Q&A. A lot of the sort of language will be used in the terms and conditions. I'm just going to read through it and just give a running commentary on it so that it answers all the big questions you will most likely have. You will have access to this document in the description of the video, along with the audition guidelines, should you wish to audition. So let's jump right into it. So, working for Mack makes audiobooks, a Q&A. What will I be doing if I get the job? So, if you go through the audition process, I think you're wonderful, I think you'd be a great addition to the team, then I will offer you a job, and that means you get to choose from a list which I've curated, a book which you'd like to enter a recording contract for. Is this a pyramid scheme? Can I never get out? No. That's why each of these contracts get renewed. So you record a book, you fulfill your obligations, you've fully recorded the book, then you can take on another book, etc. So let's just read through what I wrote here. As a contracted narrator, you will be turning public domain books into audiobooks with your voice and a microphone. Obvious enough. I, Andrew, will curate a list of public domain books I would like read on my channel, and you will be given access to this list via a Google form. From this form, you may select a book for which you would like to enter a recording contract. After submitting your choice, wait for an email from Andrew, me, at Mack makes audiobooks. In this email, you will either find a contract waiting to be signed by you. In other words, you've had your choice, the book you selected, it's been okayed. I've said, great, you can renew the contract for that book. Or you might receive a rejection letter. I'm hoping I'll never need to send one. But if it gets to the point where I just don't think the book is right for your voice, and we've been in a relationship where we can see where your strengths are, then I might say, maybe not this one. Maybe you want to try this one. We can get to that when we get to it. But those are two possibilities. You will always be required to edit out any mistakes you make in a recording and type out a summary of between 100 to 200 words for each chapter you record. So very tiny summary. What is required of you week to week? So each week you can expect something along these lines. You will be required to record, edit, and write up a summary of between 100 to 200 words for at least one full chapter of your book per week, recorded in chronological order and fully recorded, so there's no half chapters, and you email these files to Mack makes audiobooks. This translates to recording at least 4 full chapters per month, or, because I understand a chapter could be very long, or a minimum of 75 minutes of pure recorded content per month. That just means the minimum number of minutes that I want you to record per month should be 75 minutes. That means that, let's say you have recorded one chapter of 25 minutes, the next chapter of 30 minutes. That brings you to 55 minutes. And that means you need another 20-minute video for, to complete the quota for your month. So let's say the next video is 29 minutes. You might be thinking, well, I only need another 20 minutes. Let me just record the 20 minutes and I can record the 9 minutes elsewhere. No. Full chapters. It has to be that full recorded chapter, 29 minutes. I hope that makes sense. And then you might be asking, do I get to choose what books I read? And my answer is certainly. If you have a book in mind that is freely available in the public domain, i.e., we can find a free copy that is recordable under copyright law, then I am more than willing to let you renew your contract for that book. How will I get paid? That is you. How will you get paid? For now, I'm only offering PayPal as a method of payment. Setting up a PayPal account, it's easy, fast, secure, and it's free. And I'll leave a link to that in this document, which you will see in the description. Now, the big $1 million question. How much will you get paid? Now, this question requires the most careful consideration, since most of you reading this will base your decision on whether to record or not, on whether you will be remunerated well and fairly. Therefore, I've decided to answer this question in 8 parts. Nothing complex, there's not pages for each part. Some of them are really short, but some of them you might want a little bit more detail, a little bit more flesh, just to allay your worries. So those 8 points will be contract renewal. 2, the maximum contract term. 3, the timing of payments. 4, how earnings could grow with time. 5, the referral benefit scheme. 6, taking a break or quitting. 7, defaulting on contractual obligations. And 8, taxes, transaction costs, revenue share, and shared liability. So the first point, contract renewal. So, as I mentioned before, contracts have to be renewed. Each time you finish recording a book, you need a new contract to continue recording with Mack makes Audiobooks. So, if you enter a recording contract on or before the deadline date of your current contract, then you are entitled to receive your share of the revenue generated from all your previous recordings. So, if you've been recording with me for 5 months, if you are currently in a contract, then you will be able to earn off those videos you have produced from the 5 months, plus the videos you are producing now. That's why I think you can sort of see there's this idea of there's sort of like a infinite upside. The longer you've been recording with me, the greater the benefits are from month to month. But you'll only be allowed to sort of renew your contract if you've never defaulted on your contractual obligations. So if your contract said, I want this, this, and this, and you failed to produce one of those things, then you're essentially saying you can't be trusted with meeting your quota for the month. Obviously, I will judge this on a case-by-case basis. I'll get to it later, but there might be a case like where you are taking maternity or paternity leave, and I would say that's completely fine. That's completely fine. Take the break, but I'll get to that, because all I want to say is I'm going to be reasonable with it. I do understand that there are life circumstances which make it difficult to meet those contractual obligations. So I have mentioned this before, but if you have finished recording a book early, then you can renew a contract for another book before you've reached the deadline date on your first book. So that means if I start recording in May and I have to record my book by June, then if I record everything by the end of May, then I can renew on that date when I've finished, I can renew my contract for a new book. And that's essentially saying, as soon as you're done, you can get another book and record. So the onus is on you to renew contracts like that. Second thing I wanted to say, just in case it's not clear, as long as you are in a contract, you're getting paid. and that is to say you're getting paid as long as you haven't defaulted or failed to meet your quotas before that time. So number 2, the maximum contract term. So what is the maximum contract term? The maximum contract term is, it's a little cap. So I've called it T-max, term max. It's defined to be the maximum time in months it should take for you to finish recording a book for which your contract was issued. This term will be stated in every recording contract at the outset. The maximum contract term will be used to calculate the deadline date for your contract. Mack Makes Audiobooks that's me, I will be liable to pay you your share of the revenue generated from the time when your contract was active. So you can finish recording early and you're going to still be paid for that contract term. So once again, there's a benefit to doing things early. Let's see what else. I will leave some of the calculation, or just the example of the calculation. I'll leave it in the document and you can address this if you wish. But essentially the example I gave was, I've given 2 ways of calculating the maximum contract term. And that is to say, if you have chapters that are insanely long, I've given a calculation which accounts for that. If chapters are sort of average length, then you could just take the number of chapters you want produced per week, and you could divide that by the number of weeks in a month, and then you can say that's how many videos I need to produce. But that's there and it's available for you. Next thing I wanted to address, the timing of payments. So YouTube adjusts the revenue generated from the channel each month. This means that there is a lag time of 1 month between the generation of revenue and the payment of that revenue. As such, if you record, for example, 4 chapters of a book in May of a given year, you will only be paid by Mack Makes Audiobooks, that's me, between the 25th and the final day of the following month. I.e., for that example, you'd be paid between the 25th of June and the 30th of June. Due to this lag, you will be paid for the work you do in 1 month in the following month, and payment will continue until you have been paid the revenue generated while you were in an active contract. Just to make this clearer, take the example where John enters a recording contract with Mack Makes Audiobooks on the 15th of May 2022, i.e., both, meaning John and myself, have signed the contract on the 15th of May 2022. The recording contract is for a book that is of a maximum contract term of 5 months. This means that John must meet his contractual obligations each month to ensure that he has finished recording the book before its deadline, which is on October the 15th, 2022. That is 5 calendar months after the commencement of the contract. You will be paid your share of the revenue generated from your recordings for the entirety of October. I'm not going to say, okay, because you finished on the 15th of October, I'm only paying you half of the revenue generated up until that date in that month. No, if your deadline ends in 1 month, then I will pay you for that whole month. And as I mentioned before, if you finish in October, you're going to get your payment in November. So just because of that lag time, I think that makes it clear. Now, how earnings could grow with time. I think this is perhaps of the greatest interest to you as a contracted narrator. So I have given an example in this document, and it's well worth looking at. I did take a look at the data from my channel and tried to, obviously because I'm more of an established channel, and once again, I must thank everyone. At this point of this recording, we just reached 2,000 subscribers. I'm blown away and immensely thankful to all of you. But one thing which I must say, I lost my trail of thought there for a second. I'll pick it up just now. Oh yes, found my trail of thought again. When you're earning initially, it's going to be smaller amounts. Essentially what it's saying is, if you were earning that for the whole year, you might not want to do this. But when you take a look at the example and how the earnings can grow, just based on a growth rate for the channel, I mean, channels do grow, they get more and more popular, the YouTube algorithm kicks in and it starts suggesting your content to people who actually like it. And I'll just mention briefly some of the assumptions I made for the calculation of that. It's just a little excerpt from an Excel spreadsheet, just with numbers and shares of revenue which are owed to you, the narrator. Some of the assumptions were that an average performing video earns about $7 per month. The channel growth rate is around 0.8% per month, which translates to about roughly 10% per year. And this rate increases the revenue generated by the average performing video. So if, because of that 0.8% growth, it means if the average performing video was worth $7 in 1 month, the next month it will have grown. Your average is shifting upwards with time, and that's just due to the growing popularity of the channel. And another assumption was that the contracted narrator renews their contract as soon as they have finished one contract. So that means they are always in a contract for a year, because I've given this example for a year. I've also assumed that the share of revenue that goes to you, the narrator, is 70%. That's just the baseline. And I've assumed that the contracted narrator has not defaulted on any of their contractual obligations, and that they're recording one average chapter per week for the full year. And that means, just to read off some of the numbers, after your first month, you would have recorded 4 chapters. After your second month, you would have recorded 8 chapters. And by the end of 12 months, you would have recorded 48 chapters. And what this means is, by December, let's say you started in January, by December, you will be earning on 48 videos versus just earning on the 4 videos in January. If you want to see the numbers are available in this document, which will be in the description. Then 5, the referral benefit scheme. Now, this is also another consideration which you might be thinking about. You might be thinking, okay, there's 70% share going to me as a baseline if I start recording. Are there ways I can improve upon that share, get more coming in my favor? And yes, the answer is yes. I've initiated this thing called the referral benefit scheme. So if you get a job with me, I will give you a digital referral card, and it's essentially like a business card. So you can say to your friends, hey, I think you've got a good voice. Why don't you audition for the contracted narrator post at Mack Makes Audiobooks? And they might say, okay, sure, let's do it. They follow the audition guidelines, and I find them great as well, and I offer them a job. If they get the job and they accept it, then you, for your next book, will receive a 5% bonus share. So that means instead of just your 70% baseline, you'll earn 75%, but only on your next book. So if you are busy recording, let's say, book A, and then you refer someone to me and I hire them and they accept the contract while you are still recording A, then you'll get a 75% share in your book B, not for book A. So I hope that makes sense. You can read through the nitty-gritties. 6, taking a break or quitting. So I do understand that there are sometimes just things that you couldn't have foreseen in life that will make renewing your contract just impossible or impractical for a season. Such circumstances warrant taking a break from recording with Mack Makes Audiobooks. However, in the absence of an active recording contract, this may just sound trivial to you, but if you're not in a contract, I'm not paying you. But then you might be thinking, okay, what if I want to take a break, but then I want to come back eventually and start recording? Since I was earning previously on all my videos, do I have to start again from the first, as if it was the first month? No. I will, as long as you return back to me, as long as your break is shorter than 6 months before you renew another contract, then I will allow you to continue earning 70% on all of your previous recordings. But if you take a break that lasts longer than 6 months, just to minimize the variance in my pricing projections, I'm going to say that you only earn 65% on your previous recordings, when you start after a break that lasts more than 6 months. So if you're going to take a break, get back to recording with me within 6 months. Otherwise, after that, you're only earning 65% on your previous content and 70% going forward. So, and just to see if you're sort of understanding this, let's say you're in the instance where something comes up, you finish recording your book for me, but you don't want to renew another one just because things are so hectic. And you say, okay, I'm probably going to be back with you in 8 months, Mac. And I say, okay, that's fine. But in 8 months' time, you're only going to be earning 65% on all the earnings generated per month from your previous content and 70% going forward on your content produced after you've renewed your contract after the 6 months. So just draw those timelines in your head. You could refer someone to me via the referral benefit scheme, which means you'll get 75% on the content produced after you took that long break, and 70%, so 65 plus 5, 70% on previous content before that break. I have written it out more concisely in my document, but I hope just talking it through with you has made it a little bit clearer. Yeah. Going forward, as I mentioned before, there are instances where I would understand a break. If you are busy recording and your wife gives birth, or just something comes up and it's reasonable, then I'd say, okay, I can't pay you going forward if you're not producing content. But what I can say is I'll allow you to pick up as soon as you are back in a place where you can record. I'll judge that on a case-by-case basis. But if you default on your contractual obligations, that's quitting. Quitting is defined as the case where you stop meeting your contractual obligations and you terminate your contract before its deadline. If you terminate the contract, then I reserve the right to allow or ban you from entering into another contract. I can say, look, you've been very unreliable. I don't want to record with you anymore. I will pay you for what you've done so far. I won't pay you for the work you didn't do in the month that you defaulted, and I'm not liable to pay you henceforth. That's just one of the things, but that's only in a very extreme case where you've been unreliable. I can bet you for 99% of cases it's going to be everyone's putting in their work, and yeah, it's not even like you're taking up another job. It's like recording on a Saturday morning. That's what it looks like. It's something as chilled and calm as that. So don't stress it. I know there's all these long-winded sentences which I've written, which I am now regretting that they are so long, but they make it sound as if it's this crazy job. But I just wanted to cover all my bases so that you know exactly what it is you can expect from this. I also elected to read the document which you will have access to, because sometimes your eyes are just very wary and you don't want to read over long sentences. And perhaps, hopefully, my commentary on this is helpful. Let's go to point 7. Defaulting on contractual obligations. What constitutes a default on contractual obligations? What are the consequences for defaulting? What if I default in 1 month, but would like to be paid for fulfilling the remainder of my contract at a later stage? These are 3 critical questions to consider before entering any contract. So I will answer each of these questions below. What constitutes a default? Defaulting is defined by any or a combination of these 4 criteria. Those 4 criteria, my page has just done a weird thing. I'm going to read them now. The 4 criteria. What constitutes a default? You, as a contracted narrator, fail to produce at least 4 videos of your contracted book per month, or you fail to produce at least 75 minutes of pure recorded video. Pure recorded video is it's all the time excluding your intros, excluding your non-book reading elements. If you're just saying, "Hi guys, welcome to the channel. I'm a new guy recording here," and you say that for 5 minutes, I'm not paying you for 5 minutes of wasting people's time. I'm paying you for recording the book. So keep your intros to a minimum. How's it? My name's XYZ. Let's get into it. That's the sort of thing. You as a contracted narrator, this is the second type of default. You as the contracted narrator fail to finish recording your book before the deadline date of your current recording contract. It means if you were due in October to have this book finished on October the 15th, if you fail to meet it before then, that's a default, obviously. If you, as a contracted narrator, produce recordings with more than 10 errors in 20 consecutive minutes of recording. What are these types of errors? These errors are mispronouncing names and places, and when I count these, I'm not going to be crazy stringent and look for ways to burgle you. I won't count the same mistake more than once. If you are mispronouncing John as Jean or something like that, some strange pronunciation, I'll say, look, can we correct this going forward? You don't need to correct your previous stuff, just correct it going forward. I won't count the same mistake against you twice. If you fail to edit out things like sneezes, coughs, or reattempts at reading the same sentence, or confusing speakers during dialogue, these constitute things which are editing errors. So I give each narrator 3 error strikes for editing errors. These strikes enable you to respond to my feedback to correct future editing errors. But these strikes do not apply to any other circumstance of default. So these 3 strikes are just for editing. If you fail to meet your deadline, that's not strike 1, that's strike 3. That's strike 3, you're out. The 3 strikes only are applicable to editing mistakes. And one thing which I am going to do, you get 3 strikes for every time you renew a contract. You get another fresh set of 3 strikes. If you actually do get a strike, so it's, for instance, you've produced a video, there's more than 10 errors. I say, look, this is we need to raise the standard of quality here, and you say, oh, I'm actually really sorry, I didn't actually pick up on that. I'll edit it going forward, and you even change the edit of that one. So I say, this video was bad. You correct that video, I'll withdraw the strike, but only for the first strike. So there'll be no retraction of strikes after that point. That's essentially just saying, I can flag you, and then you can say, okay, I see what I'm doing, what's wrong. I'll correct it going forward. I'll even correct the video which you've called me out on, and then we can go forward. I think that's pretty straightforward. I used the word forward too many times in that sentence, but I hope you get the point. And the last instance which constitutes a default is if you fail to meet any additional obligations laid out in your contract. I think with those 4 points, I tried to include everything I could think of, but if there's something in the contract which we agree upon, and you fail to meet the obligation, then that's also a default. What are the consequences for defaulting? If you have defaulted on your contractual obligations in a month, then Mack Makes Audiobooks is free to terminate the contract and will not be liable to pay you or offer you contract renewals thereafter. However, since this decision is at that is Andrew, me, it's at my discretion, I may wish to inquire into the circumstances surrounding your default. I don't want to probe into your personal lives, but I do want to know if this is just a once-off thing or if this is recurring. But then you may ask, what if I default in 1 month, but I still want to continue and be paid because I actually am diligent and that was just one crazy month and I just couldn't meet my quota? Then I'll say, just as a continuation of the above point, if I deem that circumstance to be reasonable, if it was just like, I can understand why you didn't meet your quota, then you, the defaulter, are required to finish recording the remaining chapters of the book for which you defaulted, but we're going to renew a contract. So that contract will just be for the remaining chapters in the book you defaulted on. So if I was reading book F. If I got halfway to book F and on my 5th month I defaulted, you still have half a book to record. What we're going to do is make a contract out of that half book for the chapters, 5 to 10. You've recorded 1 to 4. We're going to make a contract out of that, and I may, just to make it reasonable, shift out the deadline of the previous contract to allow you to finish in good time. So I think that's quite fair. And it also leaves leeway for you to understand that I do want a relationship with you as an employer. I do want to know that if things are getting hectic, are getting busy, I'd like to know, look, this is what I can expect from the channel. I can expect underperformance this time because, both Bob and Ross were not able to meet their quotas, and I'm going to allow them to continue recording, but we're just going to need to renew a contract for them. So in those circumstances where it's reasonable, I'll probably just excuse and fully pardon any defaulting if it's reasonable. So yeah, let's get on. Then the last point, it's quite simple. Let me just do the last sentence. I think this might be helpful. Just to clarify, if you default, no matter what happens, even if the situation is reasonable, you will not receive payments for the revenue for the month in which the default occurred. Let's say it's the month May. You managed to produce one video, 1 out of 4, or one video out of 4, and it wasn't 75 minutes long, so you defaulted. Then I'm going to say, well, I'm not paying you for the month of May. I'm not paying you for that video because you failed throughout that month, but we're going to renew the contract and allow you to continue earning for all your work you produce in June, which will be paid out in July. So yeah, hope that makes sense. Last point from the money section: taxes, transaction costs, revenue share, and shared liability. Taxes. If we get to a point on the channel when we are earning so much that we enter into a tax bracket, which I think it's unlikely that we'll be earning that much that we get into a tax bracket, but it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have because if we do reach that tax bracket, then we can definitely say that the channel is earning and it's doing well. So we will share that taxation according to our personal capacities. Since your baseline share is 70% and mine is 30%, when we get taxed, you will take 70% of the tax and I'll take 30% of the tax that's due. That's how we split responsibility there. Transaction costs, currency conversions, and general costs of transferring money out of South Africa. I think they're around, I do know, and I have searched, it's 3.5% of the amount that you're transferring plus 49 cents. So I just said that is roughly, you should expect 4%. That's a deduction. So expect this deduction from the money that gets paid into your PayPal account on payday. So if you think, hey, Andrew, you shortchanged me. You said you'd pay me this much, but this is how much has come through. Just remember to go back and multiply the amount you got by 1 and divide by 96%. That should show you the amount that you were expecting. So just expect that transaction cost is what I will say there. Revenue share. As I mentioned before, the baseline share that you, the contracted narrator, receive is 70%. You can add to the share in revenue for a limited time when you refer someone to Mack Makes Audiobooks and they get the job and they take a job. They have to be in a contract. Then you'll get the benefit from the referral benefit scheme, which is that extra 5% for your next book. Now you may be wondering, what happens if I refer 2 people in one time and both get the job and both take contracts? Does that mean I get 10% onto my 70%? No. It means you get 75% for your next book, so that added 5%, plus 75% for your next book as well. So the next 2 books will get 75% share. So at any given time, the maximum share you can get is 75% for the month. The very last point on the money section. There's not much after this. If you have made it this far, you're awesome. You can actually just comment, "I've made it this far," in the comments. I want to see how many of you have been bearing with me and my long-winded explanations. It should be quite funny. That last point, shared liability. Now, we're going to be very meticulous, and it's both our responsibilities to check that if we are accepting a contract for a book, that it is in the public domain. I'm going to do my very utmost best to make sure that we're not recording something which we find out at a later stage can't be recorded or we can't monetize. But since this is both our responsibilities and we both have a vested interest in recording and making sure that the book is in the public domain, neither of us is going to be liable to pay reparations for loss of time and potential revenue. So if the book gets cancelled and we have to say, look, we have to try another book, I'll pay you out for what you have earned so far. If that money comes through, sometimes it gets barred from coming through because the video gets taken down. But I will make sure to handle those fairly. But don't expect like a penalty fee. Like, it isn't my fault. We took the responsibility together. So last few things. These are just general questions you may have. Are there ways I can increase my share of revenue? Yes, there are. We established that the referral benefit scheme is the way you can add to your share by referring friends and they get the job. What are the advantages of this type of work? I did mention it before, but I want to stress it again. It won't take, if you are a fluent enough reader, this will only take the smallest nibble out of your Sunday mornings or Saturday mornings, and you'll be able to get the recordings done and meet your quotas, no problem. Really do try put on the accents. Don't if it's sounding bad, don't do it. But if you know somebody who knows somebody, then that might be a great thing to do. It might be really good to just spread the word, getting all those referral benefits. If you've that's just one of the advantages of this type of work, is that you can get 5 of your good friends to be recording for Mack Makes Audiobooks, and you've essentially secured the next 5 books. You're earning 75% on each of them, which is a great share. That's just one of the advantages, and the more audiobooks you have recorded, the more content you are earning on each month. So that grows exponentially. What if you want to stop? That's fine. Take a look at the taking a break or quitting section, which is in answer to that question, how much will I get paid? That's point 6. That is it. So I'm after all of that, I am extremely excited for what this could look like in the future. I don't know how well it's going to be received. For those of you who are just consumers and you don't want to record, maybe consider someone who you know who might want to record, just popping them a message and saying, go check out this video, share the link to them. But if you are one of those people who, I would think there's quite a few people who would be willing to just give up a small bit of their Saturday morning or evening to record a book and earn a few extra bucks at the end of the month. If that is you, take a look at the audition guidelines and familiarize yourself with this Q&A worksheet where you can, I've just read over it, so you should have all the information, but if you just want to go back and check some of the points I said, there will be the full comprehensive document in the description and in the comments below. So your time has been much appreciated, and oh my word, it looks like we have gone 40 minutes into this. I can't believe it. I don't know how many people are going to have listened to this video, but I hope it's well received. I really do. And have a brilliant rest of your day. Cheers.